This is your City Council Roundup, a recap of what's happening at City Hall with John Ongaro. The views expressed in this program are solely of those of the host and not necessarily those of the radio station or its partners.
Well, another full night at City Council last night, although a short meeting. It all went underway about 5 minutes late, 6:34 to be exact. Everybody was there last night, the entire gang. This week, once again, you can set your watch to it. The audio and the video didn't match. It was about 3 seconds off, so it would kind of watching like a foreign film at some point. But when you went online and watched it online, it worked just fine. So I'm not sure what's up, but every week is a bit of a gamble. First up, the update from the Corporate Information Technology Department providing a process update on initiatives, which includes the support of corporate digital strategies, all kinds of things from paying for parking passes online to automated water readings, all covered in a lengthy plan to digitize more of the city services. That was carried. An update from the Office of the City Treasurer was next. Audited consolidated financial statements. Please don't ever ask me to read these because I don't understand any of it. However, it was all approved, and it was recommended by the audit committee that we just push it through, have a look at the numbers, and let's go. A couple of councillors were confused by some of the numbers, as was I. But we did learn last night that our debt is pretty high. Shocking, I know, but the treasurer says it's manageable. Our debt is double that of the average city per capita. When asked about that, the treasurer explained that our debt is high, but others have less, and that's why. Yeah, that's right. The statements were approved, and that was carried. They ended the committee of the whole meeting. It was done at 7:59. So then what happened? Well, on to City Council. It began with the mayor delivering an emotional tribute to former councillor Larry Hebert, who has recently passed away. Then there was a moment of silence in council's chambers. Following that, the mayor announced that it was also Councillor Hamilton's birthday. But it's not his birthday. His birthday is in September. Then it was time to rehash all of the initiatives from last week, the Human Rights-Based Community Action Plan and Temporary Village in Principle. Councillor Bentz asked for the removal of this item from last week's minutes before they were approved and asked for a revote and a recorded vote regarding his motion for referral of the temporary village, sending it back to administration. Essentially, he's asking for it to hit the brakes and maybe try to find more funding from outside sources. The motion says that asking the temporary village be referred to administration and the Intergovernmental Affairs Committee to advocate, build partnerships, and secure funding from other levels of government for the temporary village concept. That's what he was asking for. Hold the phone. Well, the debate started all over again. A heated exchange ensued between the mayor and Councillor Agarwal. She tried to use the time to re-debate the entire issue, and the mayor tried a few times to keep the discussion on track. But it was ignored by Councillor Agarwal several times, and it did get a little testy at times. Finally, the mayor added this comment to Councillor Agarwal, and I quote, "You're starting to take advantage of my good nature." With that, we have to remember that the chair is the chair, and the chair runs the meeting, whether you agree with the process or not. Ignoring them or talking over them is poor form, but it happens, and it happens weekly. That debate between the two of them ended there. Then Councillor Bentz took the floor explaining his reason for the referral again. It's about the money for him, which is completely understandable. He made the point that we need partnerships, and it's a huge cost to the city. The debate went round and round, repeating much of what we heard last week. Why we're doing it, why we need this plan, why these people need housing, and what happens next. Those opposed spoke out against the plan again, and the cost, and questioning why the rush. Well, the rush is simple. Administration wants the project in place by April to ensure that everybody who is moving into an encampment have an opportunity to utilize the new spaces in advance of an encampment and a tent village so they don't have to be moved later in the summer. So it was time for the vote on the referral to pause the plan. The mayor, Councillor Agarwal, Aiello, Bentz, and Gertuga were all for the referral. The remaining 8 were against. It lost 8-5. Next, it was the removal of the enhanced encampment response from the minutes to be voted on separately. That resolution, the Human Rights-Based Approach Action Plan, is really just the plan for dealing with the encampments. The mayor and Councillor Gertuga were the only two against the motion. It was carried 11-2. And then back to the big item, the Temporary Village Action Plan. Let's remind you that the maximum budget for this is $5 million. It'll cost $1.5 million a year to operate. $1.5 million of that is going into the 2025 budget. $5 million of that will be taken from the Renew Thunder Bay Reserve Fund. Once again, the mayor, Councillor Agarwal, Aiello, Bence, and Gertuga were against the temporary homes. The other 8 were in favor. It carried 8-5, and the meeting adjourned at 9:10. Now, this debate about the human rights approach is being viciously debated online and in coffee shops all over town. It makes sense. At the same time, there's been plenty of feedback in my inboxes in this past week as well. So because we have a few extra minutes, I thought it would be a good time for some listener emails and texts to share. As always,
this is new. I like this.
Well, there was a lot this week. As always, any feedback is always welcome. And this week was probably one of the busiest weeks for messages, most of them pertaining to the city's plan for a temporary village, one of them about my shirt. But people have some spare time. In the meantime, email number 1. I'll spare you the paragraphs starting the email. Those were some personal attacks about my shirt. But at one point, the email did say this, quote, and I'm quoting, "Stop pretending that this isn't a huge problem for residents. While you're living in your big cozy house away from the disaster, you have no clue what those of us that live near these people deal with. Now I have to pay for housing for them. No one is paying for my house." Well, that's a fine point. Email number 2. It gets worse. "It's so lame that you use every chance you get to bash the indoor turf. You need to leave it alone. It's getting built whether you like it or not, and there's way more people for it than against it. Your big mouth didn't stop it up until now, so you need to stop. Even bringing it up, connecting it to the addicts that fill our city is stupid. Get over yourself. It's happening." Well, that's an interesting one because that seemed to be the theme of a couple of people supporting the indoor turf. Why connected to the housing? Well, I'll make my point on this one more time. We're about to spend $52 million to put a roof over people to play soccer indoors, but then you have issues spending $5 million to save 100 homeless people from the elements and give them a warm place to sleep. Think about that for a second. I'll keep making that argument because this council had no issue putting their hand up for $52 million, but are for some reason struggling with $5 million to help people that need it. And finally, this one, a text message. It's number 3. Quote, "Time to wrap it up, buddy. You change your mind about spending money too many times. Now no complaints about our money paying for addicts' houses and still whining about the turf. Telling them to spend 1 week and how dare you spend the next. It's getting really tired. You need to get over it." Well, hey, thanks for paying so much attention to what I agree with and what I don't when it comes to spending your money. I will put my hand up every single time and agree to every nickel that is ever being offered to be spent on people in need. It's doing the right thing. The human rights approach to helping those in our community, what I don't put my hand up for is a $17 million pitch by a bunch of amateurs that suckered this group of counselors into $52 million of debt. I will put my hand up to support a $2 million roof for a carousel that went through years of restoration costing over $1 million, covering a one-of-a-kind piece of history to protect it. Should be as much of a priority as protecting people. So I'll agree with that too. I fully support the municipality using tax dollars to do good, period. I don't support the municipality wasting money on shiny things that we don't need in our community, and their support of empty promises from organizations that don't pay their fair share for a minority of residents. We need to go back to caring about people and the things that matter. Sadly, we've got 2 more years of a council that can't seem to agree on what's important, and they continue to show it week after week.
All right, there you have it. Tuesday morning City Council Roundup. 2 questions for you.
Go ahead.
That was really good. This may have opened up a can of worms last week when you talked about councillors clicking their pens.
Yeah, it's a
because,
problem.
It happened at precisely 7:27, and then I couldn't unsee it after that.
Oh, you hear it a lot.
And so thanks for pointing that out. The other thing is, and again, this has nothing to do with this council roundup, but I'm just confused at this whole shout out for a birthday thing and why it got some attention. Do they normally give shout-outs to counselors?
No, it was just an awkward moment.
Okay, it was because I saw it and it was very strange. It was very uncomfortable.
Well, the
meaning behind it was very nice, but I felt bad for Mayor Boschkoff.
I sent Councillor Hamilton a happy birthday text. And then he told me, well, it's in September. So,
all right,
but good. It was that was following the tribute to Councillor Larry Hebert. So there are some awkward moments in these meetings, and even a lot of the back and forth that still happens between them gets a little bit awkward at times.
Yeah.
So I don't know. There needs to be a little bit more decorum, it feels like.
Back to this temporary village, when they were voting on this, should this have passed for them to hold off? Do you think this could have threatened, Having it ready for April?
Yeah, well, that was the whole idea, not to do it by
Not to
April,
do it, yeah.
because we apparently don't have any time and we don't have any money. But the idea of doing it in April is this: if they start setting up tents in these places in
Yeah.
June when the weather gets better,
Yep.
it's going to be much more difficult to move them from there into these temporary houses. And so the idea is, let's get them built by April so that when the weather gets warmer, they have options. And that really is what it comes down to, is giving them options before the tents go up.
So here we are on the 29th of October. What is the next process or phase for
Now
this
it's about
now?
picking the location. It's all approved. So
Yeah.
now it's about picking which location, either Miles Street or the Cam River Park. There was
right.
some confusion online too. And don't believe everything you read on, especially Facebook. Good Lord. But the whole Cam River Park idea, there are many tents there now along the Cam River. There's a couple of issues with that. One, it doesn't fall within the city's guidelines. They're too close to tracks and they're too close to the water, and they'll
Yeah.
have to be moved from there. But that area of the park also doesn't have any city services. It has no water, it has no hydro, and so that would be an enormous expense. So it looks like the Miles Street idea and the large parking lot that's there that has the services will probably be the one that goes through, but we'll find out in the coming months.
All right. Well, there you have it. That is your Tuesday City Council Roundup. Again, if you text the word council to our T-Bay-Tel Talk and text line, 807-344-8229, you'll get a direct link to the Roundup from this morning. That'll be up in just a bit. Or you can go to our website, 999thebay.ca. They're meeting next week?
There is.
All right.
Back at it again.
All right. Thank you, John.